Live. Now we're talking, man. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Yet another week of lyrical acupuncture coming at you from the global studios here at Elyse Winery on 2100 Hoffman Lane.
Taking it worldwide.
Your host, Christopher Lund, Garrett Line, and our very special guest today, Miss Kimberly Hatcher.
Hola.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Women in wine.
That's right. A rose between two thorns today. We are going to talk about her complete flight of Morgado wines, and this is all kind of feeding into that theme of 2100 Hoffman Lane. Go to this website. It's really cool to see all the emblems and kind of us talking about multiple brands. Before we get too far into the show, Kimberly, I want you to tell us a little bit about why are you even here today? Like, what? So I want you to talk a little bit about your label. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the inspiration. I would love for you to maybe spend a couple of minutes talking about how a firefighter becomes a world-class winemaker.
Okay. Well, let's start with that. So I've been a firefighter in San Francisco for 23 years. When I was at my 10-year point, I knew that I would be at a place where I would still want to do something, not retire and just sit on a couch or a swing somewhere. So
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Especially there are
Did you
some
say a
cool swings
swing?
out there.
That's cool.
There's
man.
some cool swings these days.
yeah, like a tire swing on a tree.
Yeah.
Because I love trees.
And I love tires.
I don't like tires that much, but so I love animals. My whole life since
it's
I
cold
was
enough.
really little. Absolutely.
We're going to let her
love
speak at some point.
puppies and
Here it comes.
kittens and goats, and I had guinea pigs and horses. So animals have always been something that I've connected with and had a great time with. And do I need to speak louder? Okay.
Don't use your bear voice, not your mouse
And
voice.
wine. I live in wine country and I enjoy wine. I started drinking wine when I was in college.
Grade
Not
school.
College.
I swear you were going to say grade school.
So those are my two loves. So I looked into those arenas to move forward once I retired from the fire
So
department.
animals,
What am I gonna do?
love affair with wine.
Yes, and I raised dairy goats for 8 years and had a great time doing that, milking and working on
Anybody
udder
logging on
structure
today, just
and-
shoot back any information if you've ever milked a goat. Just jump in with that kind of,
it's so
anecdotal, yeah.
And to be honest, that connection is very viable.
You mean an actual
because-
goat, not greatest of all time.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
please continue.
So
Yeah.
I sold some goats to someone who owns a vineyard here in Sonoma, Napa. And when I decided, okay, I want to learn about wine, I called her and I said, I don't really even know where to start. I want to learn how grapes are grown. I want to learn how to make wine. So can you direct me towards your grower or your winemaker? And she did both. So
And what year is this, just roughly?
2008.
Wow, no kidding.
2008.
All right.
So, long story short, I met Russell Bevan, who's the winemaker for Dry Stack.
Russell, we know you're watching out there. Cheers.
Tasted through his wines and said, "Oh my God, these are remarkable. I want to learn how to make wine like that." So that was pretty much where I started. I chose wine over animals. Animals I will always have in my life, but not to make money and move forward like that. So
Well, the animals, saving the animals are still kind of a small percentage of what you do in the fire department, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to save cats and dogs up in trees sometimes.
yes,
Back in the day, that
no, I
happens
actually
a little bit.
one of the most crazy
Yes.
Yeah.
cat stories. So in San Francisco, the buildings are really, really close together. So there's not a lot of yard space. So there was a building that was what do you call them? A Victorian. So two Victorians. The lady called us,
And a microphone.
said I can't find my cat. but I hear meowing, so can you come help me find my cat? The cat was in between.
They called the fire department for this.
Yes.
Well,
always.
that's
No, please
That's
continue.
a legendary story.
No,
So,
I mean,
I'm
you
with
gotta
you.
save our animal.
Yeah.
That's why I think you already had the animals locked up, so it was.
No, for sure. And
It made sense you chose
So the
wine.
cat was between the building, and it was really squeezed in there. It was probably more than a broomstick length.
So it's like a Tom
inside.
Cruise movie, and he was. Just
No, it was
tearing up.
totally
sides.
squeezed in there.
Wow.
So everybody's trying to just grab the cat and pull it out. I devised
Oh yeah,
some
MacGyver.
duct tape
A cat
on a
auger?
bottle of olive oil.
Always duct tape.
And poured the olive oil in the crack on the cat, and the cat actually wriggled itself out.
What?
Soaked to death. It was all.
That's awesome.
That is
man.
awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of cool.
So
Anyway,
you've been helping animals.
yeah.
Now think
All
about it.
the
In the
while.
future, it's not a closed loop. You can still make wine. We employ this time of year the flocks of sheep and goats will often help us with weeding in some of these vineyards.
Yeah.
And so there's a potential down the road for you to create the first estate-based cheese paired with the estate-based wine.
There is, and you know, I love goats. I love goat cheese. I love sheep cheese. I just don't want that difficulty in that section of my life to be that anymore.
What was the first wine you drank? The first wine you drank when your brain went?
The Epiphany wine.
The Epiphany wine. I don't have to think about this. Your brain went, wait a second, this is a whole different ball game. I love that.
So it was a Marcus and Chardonnay. It was an 02. And there was probably about this much in my glass because I was at a table with 4 other people, so there were 5 of us.
Thank you for the quick math.
And
The Chicago 7, like me and 6 other guys, yeah.
so the person that brought the wine, it was in their backpack with ice packs on it. So it came into the glass really cold, and I smelled it, and it smelled pretty. I couldn't really tell that much because it was cold, but as that glass warmed up, it was so amazingly expressive, and it just kept changing. Like the layers kept revealing themselves over the next hour. I didn't even want to drink it. I just smelled it. It was mind blowing.
That's awesome. man.
Absolutely.
Do you hear that,
fantastic.
Chardonnay people? Do you hear it? Chardonnay, man.
Well,
Somebody
and
can phone
also,
me for being a Chardonnay.
we were
lover.
having a conversation before the cameras turned on about how each of us likes to drink our wine, white, red, and temperature is a major thing that came up. And Kimberly was talking about how she likes to start it off cold, but give it time to open up, really even before she kind of tastes it. But it is like that flower, and it's kind of closed up, and it can be beautiful and floral. But then as it
just
opens
like
up, you
you.
really get more of the aromatics of the wine. And it's cool to hear that story that really was somewhat behind probably how you like the temperature of your wine.
And I gotta tell you, Kimberly's wines, she walks a really fine line of balance. It's really interesting. I think a lot of people can go for power these days, but you always seek balance. That's a torturous path in the wine world, man. You're not, anybody can just bottle something full throttle kind of thing, but you're always seeking that balance point. And look at this Chardonnay. This is a 2018 Chardonnay. On the nose, you think this is going to be this big, massive, buttery powerhouse Chardonnay. And you get on the palate, and it is gorgeous. There's a nice richness of fruit. The acidity still gives you a little zip right at the end, so it's nice and clean and clear. It's super floral right now. I mean, it's really pretty out of the glass.
Yeah.
Almost like we're having a flower day or something.
And when I'm smelling this wine, I'm not thinking this is going to be the big part. I can see, but like the buttery part, I don't get a lot of diacetyl, which is that scientific word for that kind of buttery flavor in wine. I don't get a lot of that here, which for me in my palate, I like. Meaning I don't like the big buttery aromatics on the nose of Chardonnay, and I don't get that here, which I really appreciate.
The other thing I like about your wine, Kimberly, is you're not afraid to let it be dry. So many people
No.
are trying to blast out that little bit of tannin. Even Chardonnay can bring a little grip to it if you produce it in a certain balanced fashion. I like this wine finishing. She's got a little tiny little tannin, a little grip at the end. I like that.
Well, one of the things that I really like to do with Chardonnay, since I started making Chardonnay in 2012, is barrel stirring. I mean, texturally, the lees, which is the sediment at the bottom of the barrel, after you press it off of its skins and its seeds, you get a little bit of sediment at the bottom of the barrel, and it actually, it's beneficial to the wine. So some people choose to stir it.
Called bâtonnage.
And
Yeah, the French are really good with making up these terms that sound so sexy, and it's like, yeah, I stirred the barrel.
Yeah, I started that. Don't
it's kind of
I
like
agitated
baking and kneading the dough. Some people
Yeah.
do it, this way and that way, and the barrel stirring actually gives you a texture that you won't get from the barrel or from the vineyard. It's all about just the lees, the parts of the grape.
And that's the thing.
Bringing itself back into the wine.
People find that interesting because they think the wine just sits there in a barrel like it's a storage vessel. They don't realize that's a texturing device. Like we're continually working with the wines inside of those barrels.
remarkable.
It doesn't just sit there quietly in a dark corner, feeling
Yeah.
sorry for itself. Man.
Yeah, no, the lees is very important, and the thing that some people forget too that keep their wine on the lees is that the lees can go wrong, and if the lees goes wrong,
Can't we all?
Yes, of course, and that's why
We're not talking about you, Lee.
as a good guardian, smelling your barrels as they're going through their maturing process,
Élevage after
Whatever you wanna call it.
bâtonnage.
You don't want to pull the bung too much because you want to let it be what it's going to be, but you also have to make sure that the wine is
Hear that at home, folks? Ease off on the bung.
is
Establish your safe words
sound
first.
is sound and happy. So if you get an aromatic kind of something that makes you furrow your brow when you smell the wine, the first thing you should do, from what I've understood, is to check the lees. Because if it's been going well for a long period of time and it's still on its lees, check the lees first before you think that there's anything wrong with the wine itself.
So funny, in our world in the cellar, it's funny how it's really aroma. You can back up that aroma sensation that you're having with some math and with some analysis, but everything starts with the smell. Like your brain goes, wait a minute, something's not 100% right
Yeah,
here. Let me
right.
check mark this
For you
barrel
too,
yeah.
and come back and play with this later to re-examine it. So happy wine makes happy aromas. Unhappy wine makes unhappy aromas, and that's kind of our first indicator in the cellar sometimes
Yeah.
that things aren't perfect,
That's saying I need a little bit of help.
Well,
Yeah.
Don't we all?
I love
I
this
know.
Chardonnay.
I do
man.
too.
This is my style of Chardonnay. It's big, it's rich, but it still has that kind of food-friendly acidity.
And
on the
bright,
end. And, oh,
bright
man.
on the nose too. Like I said, it doesn't carry that buttery aroma that sometimes can be balanced and within wines, well-made wines. Other times it's just a turn-off to
I'm
me.
almost picturing those cow's milk cheeses, but when they wrap them in like hay, or they wrap them in like a leaf, or they wrap them in some kind of herb, that brings that extra,
That's delicious.
quality to it.
Yeah.
And some people do like buttered popcorn in
Oh,
their
for sure.
Chardonnays, and we're not saying that that's not a good thing.
No. I'm
But
just
it's
talking
just,
about my
uh,
personal preference.
Me too. I
Yeah.
prefer to have
Big
something
popcorn
that's
fan.
a little bit more. I love introspective wines,
Yeah.
and that's why I like to let it sit and become what it's supposed to be slowly.
And that's where I love this.
I love that.
Lemon peel kind of characteristic that comes out of it, like kind of the twist of a lemon peel.
And it fits perfectly in our portfolio because it is right between the Elyse style of Chardonnay, and it's not as full throttle as the Attic Chardonnay. I think it's a perfect balance point between the two.
Still gotta finish my Chardonnay. This is a fun
No, I love
bar
it.
to slide
I love it.
things.
This is
Yeah.
so much
We have a
fun.
lot of fun with that.
Thank you for
A
inviting
little
me.
too
Oh
much
my
fun.
goodness,
Thank you for
yes.
coming. So
Yeah.
We've known Kimberly for so long. It's just so fun to lure her on the show finally
Yeah.
because they've been watching off camera and laughing at us for years now, man.
well, and Kimberly, I mean, you always hear the hardest man or woman in show business. Well, she's one of the hardest working women in.
Thank you.
And actually,
Actually,
one of the hardest.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But in winemaking, so
mind your P's and Q's, young man.
she
Yeah.
works her tail off 9 months a year, picking up shifts whenever she can, just so she can take whatever time she can off during harvest. She saves any vacation time to get her, her time during harvest, takes that time off, and then wiggles whatever room she can, trading shifts with people. So she's here when she's not working on her own wines here at at Elyse Winery or the institution. She's helping us process fruit for all the other brands that we do here, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
good.
And your
No,
energy you bring here is
I love it. It's
second to
awesome.
none.
So I met Kimberly back in 2012, I want to say.
Yeah.
On the crush pad, and the first original that started the legacy, the first original Fear and Loathing in Lompoc road trips that went from that Boswell crush pad all the way down to Happy Valley and to Lompoc and to our boys at the hitching post. Hey, what's up, gang? You know, thank you for continuing to give us
be
tables
back.
in your restaurant.
We'll be back.
Sorry about everything we said last time. Industrial Eats down there.
That was
There's
the whiskey
so
talking
many,
at
oh
8:30
my God,
a.m.
there's so many. By the time we roll into dinner there, we've had a full day in the vineyards, big lunches. It's just we are a crew to be dealt with on a different level, man.
Just
you know?
having to dust ourselves off and walking.
They need the private room. for
Oh
you
my
guys,
God! But
for
there's
sure.
such an amazing operation. We your
Yeah.
Chardonnay, we will order at the hitching post. We order their lobster tail. With the Chardonnay, and that's what we eat while we're trying to decide what we're having for dinner, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
Like, it is
Art.
it's one of the great steakhouses
It's a great time.
on the
Yeah.
planet. So, talk to me
Yeah.
about Rita's Crown. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but I think sometimes when it
Yeah.
comes to the Pinot Noir world, there is such a different world between Russian River, Anderson Valley, you know, kind of that Santa Lucia Highlands kind of thing, and Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So if you could give people a quick insight into what you think the difference kind of between a Sonoma Coast Pinot and the Santa Barbara represents in your mind, I would love to hear that.
I think the first thing and the biggest thing that I noticed between the two, Sonoma and the Santa Barbara Rita's Crown, is the fruit profile. So the aromatic and flavor fruit profile in Sonoma is much more strawberry, cherry, cranberry, red fruit profile, a little bit of orange essence.
I like how she looks at me going, orange, right? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, and then what I discovered and absolutely love since I've been making wine from Rita's Crown Vineyard in Lompoc is it's a blue-black brambly fruit. So it's a little darker, but it's super amazingly pleasing.
Yes. Still Pinot.
Yeah, it is.
Black
You know, a lot of
cherry.
people don't. I've had people say, you know, this is a really beautiful Pinot, but it doesn't have the same like cherry strawberry
Yeah.
essence that I'm used to in a Pinot.
What did Ray call that sensation? Hippo on a tightrope? Because it was this massive fruit, but it finished pretty.
But
you know?
it is different from a lot of people that are used to Sonoma and Russian River Pinots. I don't.
Yeah, I'd say.
Is there anything harder than Pinot Noir to work with in the cellar?
No, it's incredibly finicky. It's very delicate. It's a thin-skinned varietal, so there's things that can happen in the vineyard that will bring it into the winery if you're not careful with the canopy management and everything. But I understand it now, and I love it. It was the very first varietal that I started working with.
Wow, you
Wow,
started with
started
Pinot.
at the top.
I started with Pinot.
Wow.
And it,
I'm going for Picasso,
It's
Salvador
scary.
Dali. Let's just.
the ups and downs about it scared the crap out of me and people that I worked with. Justin Harmon.
Justin.
And Argos,
Good guy.
standard
He
deviation,
was
which
the
you can
first
find right
person that
here.
Justin,
told
you
me
make the
to
second best Pinot we've ever
leave
had.
the bung alone.
Leave the bung
Leave it
alone, which is hard to
let
do.
That's the
Sometimes.
theme of today's show,
Yeah,
man.
I mean,
Yeah.
I learned so much patience that first year. That is still hard for me, but I do understand how with Pinot you need to let it go through its stages, and it goes through many.
We call her the Princess and the Pea, right?
Yeah.
Everything you do bruises her.
Is so amazing.
Well, and that will be a question I'd like to, hopefully, if I remember it, follow up on. But I think we have a question.
With the grapes coming all the way from down south, do you drive them up here to do your winemaking, or do you process the grapes down there?
Great question.
I do not process them there. So when I drive down to Lompoc maybe 4 times in the growing season because it is a 6-hour drive. At the beginning and towards towards the end where we're guessing we're going to be
Defining
bringing
picking
the fruit
date
in.
and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once that happens, the last trip is either to pick up the fruit. If I have a small amount, I can pull in my truck 1 to 1.5 tons.
Which is a nice truck, hence the Firefighter. And
Yeah.
but if you need
Trucks
to,
are awesome.
we have trucks, or there are.
However, yes, and moving forward,
Companies
since
that
I have
do
more tonnage, I rent or I hire, I guess,
Yeah.
refrigerated truck.
Professionals that do that for a living and keep the fruit
Oh.
cool.
Absolutely, because I ask the fruit to be picked at midnight, between 10 p.m. and midnight. That's a really cold time to pick the fruit. I don't want it to start fermenting, so I ask it to be picked then. It gets put into the refrigerated truck so it stays cold and comes down
And it's
6 hours,
here.
7 hours away because it's in a big truck.
Yep.
And it arrives still cool to the touch. All of the wines that I make, I do to get the most from the skins.
Mhm.
I do a cold soak, so I don't want the wines fermenting. And
Yeah.
that's really difficult to do. Once you pull any fruit, or probably vegetable too, from its mother plant,
Yeah, just like
it
anything.
starts to
its
break down.
Time
So-
life is.
yeah,
fading.
from that time. So
Totally.
so when it comes to the winery, off the cold truck, which is great because it does keep it that way,
Mm-hmm.
I put it in the cold room.
Oh my God, are you still talking about
55
driving Pinot up from Santa Barbara?
Yeah, well, that's
please
That was the
continue.
question.
Yeah, that was the question.
Jeez.
So
Yeah.
I don't process it there. I process it here, and I do bring it in a refrigerated truck. Yes.
At what time?
Um,
Like
well,
I'm saying.
The midnight run.
Yep.
well, yeah. I asked it to be picked from 10 to midnight ish.
There's this great thing
when
in Santa
it-
Barbara where
when
you
it's
hear
possible.
this. That's them knocking on your driver's side glass window because you just kind of sit in there and sleep in the truck while they're doing. Yeah, that's my block. Okay,
I
you're
did-
picking my actual block. Okay, now I go to sleep.
I have in 2013, 14, and 15. I did go down for the picks. I didn't drive them back, but I wanted to be there. I took a little bit of footage, and the block that I get this fruit from is so steep
Oh yeah.
that they have to. It takes them a little bit longer to pick the block because it's dangerous if you go too fast, and they have to use a tractor that has treads, not wheels. It's remarkable.
Down the
what
slope.
they
What
do.
was that? We passed the Brewer Clifton Mount Carmel
Oh,
Chardonnay
it's
block, and we go right down to that
so-
little slope in that canyon back in there.
Yeah, it's so.
There's if they would have ever had a camera
Awesome,
that
awesome.
year, we're down there and these slopes are like 40 degrees, man, and they're
It's-
made out of this diatomaceous like beach sand
Well, that's
earth.
So they're
like,
yeah.
sliding.
So
Yeah.
we've been out there all afternoon, and the walk from the bottom of the vineyard back to the top is going to take an hour. So they start humming the Chariots a theme song, and I just start bolting up this hill. So
Just-
I go running up the side of this vineyard. You can see the little trail of dust behind me.
And Christopher was booking. I mean,
It's Christopher booking.
That's a lot of groceries moving up that hill, man. You know.
I think you got farther than anybody else that was in the
Before
ship.
collapsing.
Yeah.
No,
Completely.
he got farther up that block before stopping.
Yeah. Everybody was like, "I got $20 as he falls over
No,
on that
well-
vine." No, he kept
Yeah.
going, folks.
Many,
Like,
many
oh, yeah.
smaller, younger, all those things. All those people were like way left behind Christopher's trail.
Oh yeah, it was
He-
epic, man. It was my
He
great
was-
glory moment.
he
in
was the
athletics.
best.
He was the highest beached.
Why do you keep moistening me, pushing me into the ocean, man?
No,
What's that all about?
Christopher got farther than I did on my first run.
Well, that's because you were carrying 3 other people.
You got him on your shoulders.
Firefighter, she's got
No.
2 on each shoulder, and she's
You know-
running up the hill.
You know what? Here's the thing: when you look at something and you don't know what's under
Oh,
your feet,
totally.
that was the
You
biggest
try
trick.
running up one of those hills after a pea soup Anderson's chicken fried steak and cocktails for
Oh,
breakfast.
sauce.
You don't want to be downhill from anybody.
Yeah, because if I fall, I'm taking everybody out on the way down.
I wasn't even
man.
talking about the
Oh,
falling, but-
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's an amazing sight.
But we made quite a splash down there.
Yep. Well, and they know us because we do take trips down there as a team, at least twice a year.
At least. Yeah.
3 times a year is what I hope for.
Sure.
twice a year we go down. We look at all of the vineyards that we're getting fruit from. It's not just.
Can you help me? What's the name of the steakhouse in Los Gatos that we stop at often on the way down to that trip?
Forbes Mill.
Forbes Mill. Thank you. God, I love those guys. If you guys are out there watching,
gosh.
what a great collection of
and
wine.
Kenny was our guy.
Kenny.
the flambe with the my gosh.
Because every time he did the flambe, we're like, "You killed Kenny!"
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think COVID killed Kenny, so hopefully Kenny's still kicking.
All right, that's not funny yet.
Wow.
No,
No, hey, I'm not. Right. Let's impeach, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Santa Barbara, Santa Rita, especially, really neat area for Pinot where the wind whips through and calms the ripening down. So. One of the best places in California for Pinot Noir, and Kimberly has championed that
for sure.
That site since 2012.
There's almost an interesting Asian spice on the very back end of these Pinots from Santa Barbara. There's almost like a little ginger thing that happens, or lemongrass thing. On the
I love that call.
Yeah, on the end of these wines, that
Nice,
can sometimes
Grant.
help me to kind of.
It's an obstacle course around here.
Oh man, but look at all in. If Morgado put all of your wines together, what's your total production these days?
Good question.
I guess from Chard to Cab,
Sure.
it's less than 600 cases.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
are you serious?
Isn't that awesome?
So what's
Talk
your
about
whole production of
boutique.
Chardonnay for 18?
75.
Oh my God,
75 cases of this
So take
Chardonnay.
smaller sips, man. You know the Pinot.
150,
Oh my God, that's awesome, man.
and then 75 of the Cab,
Yep.
and 200 of the red blend.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's
that's-
incredible, man.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
Something like
even
that.
more incredible that her numbers actually mathematically work out, because when Christopher talks about numbers, it's like, wait, how do we get up to 120? He always gives it that extra 20%.
Well, we'll talk about my math when we get to the blend, right? The
Yeah.
60-50 blend.
Yeah, so
Because 6 out of 5 people
Beautiful
don't understand
nose.
fractions.
All right, I'm going diagonally out this way. Let's see if we can catch it across the table. We got a crisscross. We'll make it jump.
So while he and I are bantering, talk about Sugarloaf. You know, people think Sugarloaf, and everybody's like, you get grapes from a ski slope in Vermont?
Or
okay.
Sugarloaf Mountain.
So there are a couple of Sugarloaves here. There's one in Sonoma.
Top of
Which
Kenwood.
I've gone horseback riding there.
Yeah, and there's also an observatory where you
Yeah.
can look at the stars and all that
It's
stuff.
really cool.
It
But
is
it's
cool.
not Sugarloaf Mountain.
Well,
where
you want
we
to see
get these-
stars, huh?
So
I got a fist for you.
Oh, you're going places.
Sugarloaf.
Yep, yep, yep.
Sugarloaf Mountain is as far south Napa as you can get before you cross over the line into another county. So a lot of people don't think that this vineyard can ripen.
So no Carneros, no Fagan Creek.
Yeah, no, I mean,
talk.
when I first started working with this vineyard, I was still making wine with Russell Bevan. And he was the first person to get 100-point wine off this vineyard, by the way.
Wow.
I should say we, because...
Yeah.
Oh,
Who did all the work?
Yeah.
Who actually made the wine?
So, well,
Russell, the guy with
Yes.
no arms and no
Together.
legs and a pile
Yes.
of leaves.
Ajuntos.
super far south. So a lot of people did not have faith in getting a great Bordeaux from this vineyard.
As George Michael says, you gotta have faith.
But who had faith? Joseph Phelps,
That's
who owns
right.
a lot of land all
Oh,
around
man.
there,
To
and a lot of
Joe.
it goes into the
A
insignia.
quick toast to Joe
Absolutely.
Phelps, man. One of my
Cheers.
absolute heroes in the
Cheers.
business, man.
Absolutely. And the vineyard itself it's pretty hilly. There's some valley sections and there's some great slope sections. The vineyard is pretty much planted in. No, it actually is. It's mostly Cabernet, some Merlot, and some Cabernet Franc. Very little Cabernet Franc.
The thing that amazed me is when we were in Sugarloaf, the rocks that I pulled out of that vineyard.
Oh, I was just about to say it is a rock
Yes,
pile.
they're the exact same color as when you're on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge at those armories, at those old embattlements.
Oh, really?
You look at that Bay Area rock, it's that iron rock that's got all of those rusted
Wow.
colors to it and those boulders. And if you look
Okay.
at that edge of San Francisco, that's exactly it. That was the bedrock where the ocean jammed into everything and it
Wow.
stood right up.
Yeah.
So Sugarloaf, you look at Sugarloaf, compared to where San Pablo Bay came in. So Coombsville has a lot more of that marl and that Fransisco marl where it's more organic soil and ocean driven.
Okay.
And that jammed in, and there's all that Sugarloaf, is all that rock outcrop.
Well, there's also a reason that just northeast of that is Sire Rock Company that excavates most of the rock that people work with for I don't actually know.
It's a quarry.
Yeah,
It's a quarry.
Yeah.
I mean, it
absolutely.
is like granite and all sorts of different rock.
And as a crow flies, it's less than a half a mile from where Sugarloaf is.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the Sugarloaf Vineyard, it is exposed. So when she's talking, people worry that it's not going to get ripe enough because it's too cold, but it is exposed. There aren't trees getting in the way.
Yeah, no,
it is baking in the sun, west facing and southwest facing.
Do you think the
which
crows
is
know we
ideal.
still use that scale? Like, as the crow flies, crows like, what's up, man? Like, is it me? Like, do I fly in a straight line? What is that, man?
You know, one of the really cool things that I like about this vineyard is it's the thing that I get at Rita's Crown too. There are so many amazing raptors there.
Oh, yeah.
The hawks that hang out here are just spectacular.
Yeah, you get the red shoulder hawks down
Oh
there.
my
They're
gosh.
amazing. The noise they make when
so beautiful.
they're so high up over your head. Next thing you know,
Yeah.
they just do that dive bomb into the vineyard,
Well,
man.
it's I love it when I'm walking through the vineyard and I just hear them making noise, and then I just what would anybody do? You just stop and you watch them, and they just
my heroes
they
are the
love
little
it there.
what are the
They
larks?
love it there.
Where the little blackbirds, they have 3 of them will gang up on one of the hawks, and you see the hawk patrolling their nest. And
Yeah.
these 3 little birds are like, you see him chasing this big ass bird like out of the way,
Well,
you know? Like,
that's a respect thing.
Strength
too.
in numbers.
Yeah.
That's how we do it here at Elyse.
Absolutely.
I mean, back in May, so we're shut down and we're doing these TV shows that 3 people watch.
Thank you, all of our 3 faithful
No, and thank
viewers.
you
Yes.
for
Thanks for
watching
tuning
us.
in.
Absolutely.
However, we did a trip around our mountain vineyards, and Sugarloaf was the first stop. And so we went up there, couple cars, and I mean, it is gnarly rock. Just the different pieces of rock that Christopher picked up, and Russell and Kimberly walked us through the vineyard and said, all right, that's where these are. An amazing vineyard. I'm pretty sure we saw some hawks roaming around there then, but it's a special place. And
really special.
when you look at all the amazing wines, scores or not, but you can talk about the ones that got scores. Russell's got quite a bit of history in that vineyard. Joseph
Absolutely.
Phelps, like we said.
Love
But
Affair
there's
with
many
Merlot.
more.
Yeah.
Many more amazing wineries. And it's a secret. I know, God, was it...
So the Cabernet is good from Sugarloaf, but the Merlot could be one of the more compelling grapes that really performs
Merlot
well out
and
of that
Cab
vineyard.
Franc.
Yeah.
The Merlot and the Cab Franc from this spot
Absolutely.
are spectacular.
And once again, what's the theme of all of our vineyards? When you stand in them, you get the view. You get the curve of the earth, and you get the ocean, and you get on a clear day you can see San Francisco from Sugarloaf, man. You know.
And also when we get our heat spikes in those vintages, like we did in quite a few lately. So when the rest of the valley is 105 to 113, that's sitting in at a pretty 95 to 98, and just, I mean, sitting pretty with retaining acidity.
What's the wind chill factor today at Sugarloaf, man? You know, it's 115, but it feels like 95.
Right? It's been windy today, and notice that the wind's whipping north to south today, which normally it's coming in from the south. So
And
it's interesting to notice.
If it's okay, one thing I really want to say.
It's always okay.
Oh yeah,
es-
This is a place of truth and honesty, Kimberly.
Okay, now we'll stop interrupting.
No, especially.
Wait, now we will.
No,
Especially.
but right now we will, for sure.
Okay, now we actually will.
Especially in this vineyard, the farmers and the farming team, and everybody, pretty much the people that own this vineyard, they have been very open to
Being in the hot tub with you.
influence.
No.
Farming the way you want. All right, we're gonna let you speak. I think we need one of these.
Oh, nice.
All
Let the
right,
woman
okay.
speak. Let her speak.
So I learned and have it's been solidified in me since I've been making wine now that you make great wine from properties that are planted by people who are growing grapes for premium wine.
Yes.
They're also farmed by people that are farming for premium wine. They're not growing for yields.
Yes,
They're not
that's
growing
very
for
true.
like
That's well said.
so
No,
many
that's very
grapes.
true.
They're growing for
Quality over quantity.
absolutely.
And
So
we're-
that plant is being taken care of
Is it still
in
the
such
Atlas
a
farming
way.
guys?
Yeah.
Atlas and others, but yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they're the ones
Atlas.
that kind of led us to Santa Rita too. Like that was part of
Absolutely.
that whole story, man.
Yes.
You know, to
Yes.
the boys and gals
For
at
sure.
Atlas, man.
Atlas.
Bravo to y'all.
Yes, and they, you know, Russell. When I first started working with Russell in this vineyard, the Cab Franc was the number one that I want
Hardest
to talk
grape to
about.
find grown well in the Napa Valley.
It can be spectacular, but what we found out and what I learned from this experience was early sun exposure in the vineyard makes a huge difference for the quality and of the.
No.
I want to be
Well,
one
wait,
of you
come on.
guys one time. That's so cool.
I know it's a distraction, but kind of keep
No, it's
focused.
okay. It's
But
okay.
it never stops being fun, you know? Yeah.
Focus, don't fuck us. I mean, what? Did I say that?
Cabernet
We gotta
Franc,
turn it up a
Cabernet
notch
Franc
here.
is one of my absolute favorite varietals, and it does not always give you its
Why is Cabernet Franc
best.
such a problem? Why is she a problem?
It's climate.
Notice I said she. Yeah.
It's climate and canopy management.
So Cab Franc can either be your absolute best friend or just an absolute green chlorophyll pyrazine factory.
Yes, pyrazines, yes.
Yeah.
So
Fancy word for that greeny, like bell peppery kind of like vegetative
exact.
flavor in one.
Bell pepper. I actually smelled somebody that I smelled somebody. I had a
Wow,
whiff-
sorry, that was me. I purposely did not shower this morning.
I had a whiff
I was
today
still
of someone
late.
that was having a piece of pizza and it was covered in green peppers. And I don't like pyrazines in my wine.
Yes, we fight those tooth and nails
Some
in
people
operation
do,
as a
and
culture.
I
Yeah.
don't. That's great if you like those. I don't. I like fresh, pure fruit flavors. And so, what Atlas adopted after Russell went in and said, "Look, this is the research that I've done. Let's try doing this. Let's open up the canopy early,
Yes.
when the BBs are first formed, when the berries are first
Get a
making
base
their
tan, don't
appearance.
sunburn, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So it's the same idea of doing a pre-tanning, like tanning booth stuff before
Yeah.
you go to Mexico.
Get your
and
base
Hawaii.
tan.
Get your
Yeah.
base tan so
So
that you don't burn.
you're not blistering.
And they were a little bit apprehensive, but the thing that was great is these are acreage contracts.
Yes.
Okay, so the way you purchase fruit if you don't have your own vineyard is you purchase per ton or you purchase per acre. When it's per acre, whatever that acre gives you is what you pay. So if you get 2 tons or if you get 10 tons, you're paying the same price.
Acre contract equals control. Tonnage contract
Yes.
equals not so much control.
So because we are paying per the acre, if the way that we asked them to manage the canopy and pull leaves over the fruit zone so that there was more sun exposure, if it damaged the fruit, it's on us because
Yeah.
we're going to pay for it no matter what.
Yeah.
So they were more willing to do those experimental
Yeah,
things
because
early
their
on.
payment is guaranteed.
Absolutely. And since this 2012, when I first made this wine, they have other clients that they are manicuring the vineyard for in the same way because the outcome was
Yeah.
amazing.
The results speak
no
for themselves.
pyrazines, the skins are really thick, and that's where you get a lot of your color and your flavors.
So you're saying that you and
Your
Russell
tannin.
affecting the farming of Sugarloaf to get to the powerhouse wines that these are. You're saying that the rest of the vineyard has slowly started managing their vineyard the way you
Yes.
encourage your. That's a
So,
huge,
I'm
right?
pretty
Yeah,
sure
kiss so guns
when
out,
I-
suns out, baby.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
it's a
saying?
little flex
Yeah,
because
yeah.
when I worked at Thomas Keller or with Thomas Keller multiple times, there was something that it was really cool. It's what is your legacy gonna be? It seems like you and Russell in this vineyard have already set one legacy. I'm sure there'll be more, but let's just say one that people are already starting to adopt.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're going to do it that way, but other people are doing that way. That's called a legacy. And that's pretty cool for
But-
2 winemakers,
Right? I don't know
a
about that.
firefighter, and a...
Microphone.
You know
Whatever.
that's pretty cool, but what I really like is that what ends up in the glass is so good.
It is so good.
It's so good.
All right, from a harvest standpoint, what's the most exciting moment of harvest? Is it tasting out of the barrel from that harvest, or is it the moment you pull the trigger and pick? Is it the sorting line? Like, what's the moment where you've done all of that management and you get to taste that first, like, wow?
There's so many things that are great
Yeah.
once harvest starts. I mean, once the vines start to wake up and they're pushing cotton, which is when they're just starting to become alive again.
Yep.
Because the vines do go dormant and they become like hard bricks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at a vineyard that is just asleep, and it doesn't look like it could ever produce
again.
a beautiful green leaf.
Yeah.
And they just do.
They're
every
protecting
year.
themselves. They're just
It's fantastic.
yes, they're caving up like a bear.
It's so cool.
hibernating.
Hibernating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
I'd like to try hibernating. I think I'd be really good at it.
I think you do.
If
I'm
if
pretty
I could
sure.
just burrow in.
I'm pretty sure you and I are both coming out of it based
I-
on our
I love to sleep.
on our grouchiness this
Right.
winter.
I
I'm
do.
pretty sure
Very good
everybody's seen our hibernation,
For
but
sure.
we've just been awake.
The angry shows.
I do love sleeping. Do we have any more questions?
So thank you for all the staff that have put up with us in our
Right.
shortness.
So
lack
16
of
and
patience,
17
grouchiness.
side by side. We have 17. So what we basically did
Yeah.
is sugar loaf, and we're going to call it roughly the same blend, 50-50, 60-40, Merlot heavy on 17.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're going to see a similar approach every year, which is that balance point of 50-50. But putting two vintages side by side for us is important because some of us like that wine a little rougher and fresh out of the gates, and some of us prefer it with a little age and a little softness and a little balance going. So I love being able to show a similar concept from the same location, but from two different vintages, because it's really important, especially your production numbers, to go,
Yeah, it's
I do not want that to taste exactly like that. I want the intention and your love affair with that wine to be the same, but I want that voice of vintage in there. I mean, do you consciously do that, or are you still just blending for the most delicious glass of wine out of the cellar and the rest will work itself out?
I have with this specific vineyard, I have acreage contracts. So I get an acre of Merlot, which I just bumped up to. It was a half an acre.
Nice.
Wow, you're
That
double now.
Merlot
Look at you,
is
man.
some of the most valuable Merlot in the valley.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and it's a difficult block because it's so rocky. I don't have her with me anymore. My little Sharpei. I used to take her to vineyards with me all the time. We'd walk. This is the only vineyard that she would not walk the rows because there was so much rock.
Coyotes?
No rock.
Well, and
her
just
10-year-old
I was talking about the Sharpei.
her 10-year-old
the soft feet.
Yeah, she
What's her
went
name?
Ripley.
Ripley.
Cheers to
Ripley.
Believe it.
Yeah, and she loved red wine. Her favorite was Merlot.
It's the hardest thing to find at harvest is a bloody Sharpei.
Hey, shout out to Haley
Wow.
and
Oh,
her dog
Haley.
Merlot that
Yeah,
always
Yeah.
comes over.
absolutely, man.
Which is a
Cheers.
Ridgeback, Rhodesian Ridgeback, which is a great breed. I love dogs. So this is the deal with Sugarloaf. Since I'm on an acreage contract, I get
God,
now
it's
an
delicious.
acre.
I love this one.
I'm digging it too.
Juicy
Yeah.
Merlot.
So an acre of Merlot, and I get less than a third of an acre of Cab Franc.
Wow.
I love Cab Franc.
So less than a third, so like 3/5?
So I'll just
So
say
it's like 0.29 of an acre.
Merlot and Cab Franc from this
0.29.
vineyard is like buying Bitcoin at 3,300 last year, and now it's up to 50 grand. And your trading power, it's like, okay, I've got more Merlot than I need, but I can kind of sell it off at high-end cab prices because people need Merlot to soften up their cab because
yeah.
this vineyard
Or sex it up
is
because this is such a sexy Merlot from this.
And we're notorious in the wine business. We stand in a
Oh my
vineyard like
God.
sex
Sugarloaf,
it up is
and we're like,
better.
who gets that block right there? I want to go over there. Take me
Yeah.
over there.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in Sugarloaf and looked at a block, and I won't mention the person's name, but there is a winemaker that gets so much of the Cab and the Merlot that I really want, and he's never going to give it up.
What?
wow.
If we
But
should-
I do curse his
Man,
name.
those that don't give it up, it's
Right.
frustrating.
I mean-
Play hard to get.
No, I'm glad that he has it and that he makes a really nice product.
We
Cool.
can strong arm.
So yeah, no, I'm
I
not
heard
going to
he's
mention his
getting
name,
older.
but
Yeah.
We have a trash business. We have a waste management business. We
I'm
could
just,
probably,
I'm so happy that we hung in there with this vineyard.
Yeah. I think we've championed this vineyard. It was really,
Yeah,
other
no.
than Joseph Phelps discovering it 20
gonna-
years before we did.
I really want to say this. You know, when Russell and I first walked, we actually walked that property together for the first time. When he walked this property, he went somewhere else. I mean, it was that special.
Yeah.
The dirt is red, and yes, it's rocky. We already talked about that. But the row orientation and the slope aspects of the fruit that they were offering us was just.
There wasn't a lot to fix.
I've learned this later, but I just remember watching him, and he was so mesmerized on everything that laid out. It was almost so perfect, and he talked about this vineyard, and I kind of wish he wouldn't have. To people, to winemakers that were looking for special sites.
Yeah.
And did not believe in Sugarloaf because it was so far south, and they were worried about ripening.
Yeah.
And some of those same winemakers are now in that
Yep.
vineyard.
Totally.
And we've championed it at many levels. So those of you that come to taste wine with us, the Sugarloaf Merlot makes appearances in some of the blends, especially the proprietary red blends.
Yeah.
There's something magical about how powerful and delicious that fruit is that can really play nice with even the institution blend, even the Addicts red wine blend.
It's really
is
special.
yeah,
It really is special.
for sure.
So I feel really privileged to be able to still.
And
be
they loved you guys
in
so
this
much that when
property.
they planted new acreage at Sugarloaf, they
Got
took
you.
you out there and
Oh,
said,
yeah.
"What would
Yeah,
you like
what-
us to plant?
Yeah.
How would you like us to do this?" That's
Yeah,
huge,
and
man.
It's
really cool.
you know, the wine
Really
business is the wine business, but it's still business, and these growers know who put them on the map, and they're kind enough to, be genuine and loyal to the people that bring them with them,
And the cool thing is too
Grant,
is
quick question. You get a question?
You mentioned that a lot of people use Merlot to soften up cabs.
I'm not going to use the word soften up.
so wait.
All right.
I said that, and I'd say from what I was saying, Merlot and Cab can be a yin and a yang, and Cab can be the little rough edges, and Merlot can soften it.
Yeah.
However, in this site, and there's a lot of sites in Napa where if Merlot is grown on Cabernet sites, it can bring power with also elegance. But now I'll turn it over.
No, you're right. You're so
I
right.
was the
no,
one that said the
I was
soften,
surprised
so
by
I'll take
Merlot
it.
has a
For
tannin
sure.
profile that was larger than I expected. It's
Yeah.
something
For
to
sure.
manage, but Merlot's landing spot in the middle of your tongue is its absolute number one contributor in luscious wine. All of the fruit flavors, they don't land on the roof of your mouth, not on the sides. It just lands right in the middle of your tongue, like biting into a perfect steak. And all of
It's
Merlot's
so-
life is
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah,
man.
it's that-
It's
middle.
it's so beautiful, and the fact that the movie that came out promoting Pinot and taking away from Merlot actually did knock Merlot purchasing down quite a bit.
In a good way.
You
For
play
us.
You play
Well,
the pronoun game
for
a lot.
us.
That movie, that guy. The
I like
person
that
I
too.
will not name,
No,
you
and it
know,
went.
like-
We call that backwards. That movie.
Come taste wine with us. Tell Kimberly a secret. Apparently, she'll never tell anyone ever, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good skill to
How about
have.
the
No, I mean-
Voldemort effect?
Yes.
The
The
Voldemort.
one.
Voldemort.
Oh, are those for all you Reddit users? I think Voldemort
Oh, I
might.
read it.
It's Harry Potter. It's not Reddit.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know.
Popular guy.
I didn't read those, so I never read it.
And Harry Potter. It sounds like a gardener with a pituitary issue.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Look at the color of this Cabernet. That is
Yeah, we just-
ridiculous, young lady. I mean, look at this. We're holding these up to studio light, so no light is getting through that Cabernet.
Say thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, this show is super special for us, which, who knows, we might even be
Thank
going
you, guys.
overtime, but
Thank you,
we
Garrett.
enjoy Kimberly
Garrett and Christopher.
personally and Kimberly's
Awesome.
wine so much
Awesome.
that, sorry, if we're running overtime. Oh, good, we're not.
Oh, really
Never
quick.
mind.
May I?
Yeah, please.
So I just wanted to.
Sure, world, man. We just live here.
So
Yeah, let's describe the labels.
Just talk real
So you-
quickly about Morgado. So Morgado Cellars.
Yes.
That's my wine.
Yes.
Morgado is my mother's maiden name. So my grandmother Morgado was a huge influence in my life when I was growing up. She moved around a lot with us, and my dad did move us around quite a bit. My mom was the youngest of 9 children. Wow. And my grandfather died the year that I was born, 1964. Oh my God, I just said how
You
old
said
I
that
was.
out loud. Oh, you're out now, man.
It was a hell of a year.
My mother, we had 4 kids. There were 4 of us, and so my dad worked a lot. So my grandmother moved around with us to help take care of, 4 little rugrats. Me being the most monkey, naughty
monkey.
fun-loving child.
Well, she's a
that I was.
firefighter. She knows how to tie KNOTs.
So back to the handprint. So when I was looking for ideas to put the label together for my grandmother, I was with my mom and we came up with that's cool.
Just keep talking, baby. We'll do the voiceover. They can't see us now.
Plaster of Paris handprints.
Yes.
So I don't know if they still do that with children these days.
I have 2 in my garage right now
Do
from
you?
both of my little ones. The hard part is getting
Yeah.
to push her hand in without them crying. Because the
Aw.
whole time I'm like, this is weird. What are you doing?
And I don't know if they still use the same material, but it was
Yeah.
it was a bit fragile.
Yes.
So my mom had like 4 or 5 of them in bundles.
Yes.
So 4 kids, and then my mom or my dad's handprint, and my grandmother was in every single one. So when I found those, we went through all of them, and most of them were crumbled. We found a couple that we could put together to make the same kind of handprints.
Yeah.
So this is what I chose to put on every single one of my bottles,
cool,
which
man.
is a digital impression of my grandmother's handprints.
So a little bit of grandma goes with you wherever your wines go,
Yeah.
man. Come on. Who's got a
No,
dry
always,
eye out there?
always.
Heartless.
Always.
Yeah,
And
I love that
my
story.
grandmother spanked me. She spanked me so much,
Really?
and that's only because I was so naughty.
Yeah. Were you a pyro? Did you set fires before you learned how to put them out?
No.
Oh, that's a guy thing? Is that a guy thing?
It was never anything bad. It was
okay.
just, there's 4 of us, and I might have been like pulling my brother's hair too much, or my sister's ponytail, or whatever. But I was, I just couldn't be held down. I was kind of all over the place and crazy.
Yeah,
And
my mother was like, why do you have dirt in your room? I was like, that's not dirt, Mom. Those are the last footprints of the last 2 dogs that died on us. And she's like, I'm like, okay, I'll stop yelling at you for having dirt in your room.
I did actually, because I love dogs so much. This is getting back to my animal thing. I love animals so much. When I was 5, we lived in Japan, and my grandmother was there with us.
Wow.
I was walking home from school with my sister and heard some puppies.
And then you saw Godzilla.
No.
Oh.
Let her finish!
I looked through the knothole, and there was a dog with some puppies in the yard, and I coaxed them over. Come here, puppy. And a puppy came to the little hole that was in there. I might have dug it out a little bit more. So and I took that puppy home with me.
You
I know
did
it was wrong.
not.
It was wrong. It was a small puppy, and I'm sure it wasn't even weaned. But I was so excited
You
that
say
I had
winged?
Weaned.
Oh, weaned. Oh,
It
so
was-
they have winged puppies in
It was
Japan?
still on his
Oh, yeah.
mommy's milk sack.
I saw him in
Oh.
Wizard of
So I
Oz.
took it home with me, and
Those are monkeys.
I was so excited to have that puppy because I wanted a puppy so bad, and my dad wouldn't let us have puppies. So
So confess.
That night-
confess and
Let her
apologize.
finish the story. Let us finish the
that
story.
night, my dad woke me up with the puppy tucked under my arm in my bed. And I mean, it's okay. I got spanked.
Oh.
Yeah.
I got spanked.
But did you keep
And
the
my
puppy?
dad's no.
Oh.
Yep, the
My
lesson
dad
was.
said in the morning, we are taking that puppy back. And so he did. He had me by the hand.
Yeah.
I was able to hold the puppy. And we went back to that place. I shoved the puppy back under that hole
Oh,
and
nice.
piled up the dirt on the hole. And that was it. I had to
And
go
it
to
went back
school.
to its other puppies and went, I had the weirdest night last night, man.
Good thing it wasn't like a bird. It's like, no, you touched a human, you're gone.
I realized it
You're a
was
stranger
wrong,
in your own home.
but it was for those. I
So
don't
you
know,
were passionate at a young age. Like you saw something and you
those
loved it, man.
6 hours, maybe 9 hours. I got to have that puppy, and it was not my puppy, and it was wrong. I'm just saying.
Well, you learned that lesson.
I
and
feel
it was
like
a
we've
good
grown
lesson,
together on
and
the show today.
But my
I've heard
grandmother.
this story before. Yes, I want to hear how it
When I got
Especially
home
the
from
grandmother.
school that day, my grandmother had nothing to do with it before, like when I brought it home, to the point when my
Gave
dad
it
made
back.
me take it back.
Okay.
So when I got home from school that day, parts that I remember are my grandmother taking me aside and talking to me about why it was wrong and telling me that she understood,
Oh,
That's huge.
that is huge.
but then she spanked me.
Well, yeah. Hey, to grandma.
She
Yeah.
said, I just want you to remember that that is not okay to take something that
That's
doesn't
right.
belong to you. Spank, spank.
Don't let me
And
hanging.
It actually,
Well, you got to let her finish her story.
it hurt. My grandmother, once she spanked me, that was no lie.
What was her tool of choice for spankings?
Wooden spoon.
Oh, man, the mixing spoon is still the worst.
Like
you
a
know?
like an old school wooden
Yeah. It was made out of
spoon.
like
It was
maple
not like
and
it was a
anchor.
thick sucker
Yeah.
with holes in it.
Well, because
Oh.
you want to hear the whistling sound on the way in.
Yeah.
What did Five Fingers say to the butt?
But then here's what's really cool. She taught me how to make cinnamon rolls later on.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was once it was done. She wanted me to learn the lesson, and then
But then,
everything's cool.
Is that-
yeah.
Is
No,
that
that's
how
what
you- is
happened
that
when
how
I
you
got
tense up
suspended
every
from
time we bring
school.
cinnamon rolls to the
Got taken out to
winery? Is
lunch.
that still a thing? Yeah. No, that's awesome though.
That's
Hey, look,
huge.
if you guys want to
Yeah,
log on
yeah,
after the show
yeah.
today and tell us all the devices your parents
So,
used to spank you over the years,
Mary
belts,
Morgado
switches, like jump
is-
in there.
She's a diamond in my life, and she will always be.
Yeah, I
All
remember hearing that story, and
Yeah.
and Mary Morgado, your grandmother, taught you more really about discipline and just kind of the structure of life, and taught you amazing lessons. What is the significance of the tree? And it is textured on the front label.
Awesome. It's tactile.
So we heard the plaster of Paris handprints. What's the significance of the trees?
Trees are something. My grandmother loved just growing. She grew up in Hawaii. Actually, she was from Portugal, but they landed in on the Big Island in Hawaii, and had some property there. They had a lot of like fruit trees and nut trees. They had a macadamia nut tree there. Growing was just something that she really loved, gardening and growing. Trees are something that that part is a lot about what I love, and I love trees. I love touching trees. I love like listening to trees with my eyes closed in a breeze. I mean, that's just so beautiful. And I like the fact that trees they can be so old and be so beautiful, and that the structure of a tree is planted and firm and strong but flexible.
Yeah.
And that's something that I
Greatest book of all time, The Giving Tree.
oh yeah.
Greatest book of all time for tree
I
lovers,
know,
man. Come on.
I know. So, and I've always loved to climb trees, and we were talking about a swing earlier. A tire swing is something that I always wanted to have and never had the opportunity to have in my life, and I still haven't.
Okay, while you're talking about inspiration and passion, though, we've talked about Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cab Franc, and Merlot. All right, this is pure Cabernet Sauvignon. And this is a rock star right now.
Yeah, what is
young lady.
this with
Holy
ratings
That's
too?
awesome.
This has been
And this is a really interesting story about another winery developing a site. I mean,
Absolutely.
spending and pouring millions into just getting access to the mountaintop where these grapes are even grown, man.
So new. This vineyard has been established for a long time with another winery and another brand owner. So in 2014, access to this vineyard was kind of being talked about. So the salesperson was going around and looking for people that he wanted to bring in as winemakers
That
to
would be
really
champion the
champion the
vineyard,
vineyard.
that have
And-
already had proven success to put that vineyard on the map separately of the previous one.
Absolutely, but knowing with the new company that came in to bought this that bought this vineyard, that it could be so much more than what it was.
Yeah.
And so having access to this vineyard was pretty special, and I do have a very small footprint in this vineyard. This is Sage Ridge, which is it's owned by Judy Jordan.
It looks over the entire Charles Valley. You can see Lake Berryessa from the top of this vineyard.
The
So
aspects,
backside Pritchard Hill.
East.
So again, as a crow flies,
See, once again, the crow's like, seriously?
like a quarter mile
Yeah.
from Pritchard Hill is Sage Ridge Vineyard. It is pretty spectacular.
2,000 feet? 1,700 feet? Like,
Yes,
what is that thing?
and the soil profile is really interesting because even that high up, there are some shell
You see
fragments.
fossils from the
So
ocean
it's
floor.
so
Yeah,
cool.
it's nutty up there. I love
It's
it.
amazing.
Some of the rocks I collected up there were some of my favorites,
Yeah.
man. It's such there's like shale and schist on one all of a sudden, and then there's these fossils on the other.
It's beautiful. It's a great example of plate tectonics, I guess,
Totally.
for people that know more about
You believe in
than
that
I
kind
do.
of thing.
And Mount
Yeah.
St. Helena is not far away,
Yeah.
so I'm sure there's some volcanic deposits,
Yes,
whether low
yeah,
or high.
Yeah, and it's
One of my favorite words, upthrust.
ooh,
Yeah, it's good. It says everything. It really does.
We are talking about plate tectonics.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
pretty cool.
Don't be
So
dirty.
I get very little fruit from this vineyard.
Not in
the
terms
little-
of flavor, but in terms of
Not
actual
in- yeah.
Oh
tonnage.
no, the
Yeah.
flavor that I get
Because
from
this
this
is
And the
vineyard
wine is, but
epic and
also it's a mix of
It's a-
fruit
If I'm
and
blending
mineral
some-
and earth, and it's just the balance, which
Yeah.
is why you get scores that you do from this vineyard.
This is the 2017. So in 2016, I was blessed with a 98-point score from Jeb Dunnick for that
Jeb.
vintage. 2016. Cheers!
Cheers.
Ching,
Yeah,
ching,
thank you,
very
Jeb.
much.
Thank you, Jeb. Thank you, Kimberly.
I've seen with Chateauneuf de Pops, Jeb and I have a very similar palate, and
This
Anyway.
this Cabernet is really spectacular.
Yeah, I agree.
The growing season is so much fun.
Smooth.
It's
that's the only way you get him to stop talking is if he breathes while he's drinking.
So the first time I was in this vineyard looking at it before I actually said yes, I would really like to have this. The water source for sprinkler and emitters was at the top of the hill where I pulled my truck, and as I was pulling out, I broke the PVC, and it was on a Sunday, so there's nobody around
To tell that you just
Well, I did make
broke
phone
the.
Plenty of
So
phone calls.
I got Scott on the phone, and I said, Scott, I'm really sorry, but my truck has got such a big ass. It swung around. I didn't even see it, and I did really actually say this.
Does your
Nice.
truck have a name?
Scarlett.
Scarlett.
It's a beautiful
What a great
red
name
truck.
for your truck.
She's really cool. She had a really big behind, and when I swung around, I couldn't see it, and twink, and it was pumping it out. Am
We'll
I
finish, but can
not
you tell
going
UPS to
fast
go around?
enough? I don't know. So anyway, so they did come and close it and all that kind of stuff, but the next year, after my first year, which was 2014. The growing season was something that I just was paying really close attention to.
Yeah.
The block is kind of a boomerang shape. It starts high and it ends low.
Yes.
Still on the mountainside, so it's not valley floor, but it's just the aspect. And so I wanted to, as tasting through it, I wanted to see, should I ferment this separately? Like the upper section and the lower
Yes.
section, because
That's the
the
answer.
sun aspect was different. So when I would measure the sugars, they were really close, but just far enough apart that I wanted to ferment them separately.
Yeah,
Good.
and
And
from
so I
an
did.
R&D perspective, that's a good.
Yeah, I
Good
wanted
thing
to see
to
the
see
Our
year
cellar
to
is
year.
full of those barrels that say uppers
Yeah.
and lower,
Yeah,
morning
see-
side,
see the
afternoon
difference,
side.
yeah.
That's the sensitivity. If you're not only going to make 8 barrels of something, man,
Yeah,
hello.
I wanted to see what the
Yeah.
differences were, and so
What'd
I
you
used
find?
I used the same barrels.
Yeah.
So everything was the same fermentation process and everything that. In the end, they were the same.
Huh.
They were the same. A little
Why
bit
do
of
you do it?
Okay.
the aromatics and the textures were a little bit different, but not enough that I wouldn't ferment them together.
So, folks,
So I
I
ferment them
want to
together.
thank everybody for logging on and continuing to be our fans on the show today. Kimberly, I
Thank
cannot
you.
thank you enough for coming on the show with us today.
Thank you.
We've been meaning to get together and do this with you for a number of these
Thank you.
shows. This is an amazing flight. This Cabernet
Yeah.
is continuing to open and
Wow.
develop. This
It's
is
ridiculous.
An absolute.
We might have to put a tasting pack together
I think
and
so.
do yeah. I mean,
Oh.
we got 4 or 5, maybe.
Grant can help us understand
decide.
this. If you go to 2100 Hoffman Lane's website, that's where you could find the flight that we tasted today on the show.
I think most of these wines are on 2100 alcohol.
Good. That's really the game. Is we're never going to taste wines on
this is
the on
so
the show and go,
So
yeah, they're
great.
unattainable.
What did this guy?
And if you pick up these wines,
17 got
we
it
could
back
put
to
a date on the calendar and zoom in and
Yeah.
still have fun and taste with you along. These are remarkable wines, Kimberly. You should be very proud of your collection here. This is
Thank you.
this is fun for us to have as part of our family and our portfolio. And
Yeah,
I love
it's-
having the diversity of winemakers between you and Justin and Russell under our roof.
Yeah,
So I think
thank
we're
you.
pretty blessed as a group to be able to play.
And being here at
Yeah.
Elyse, this is my second year. This will actually be my third vintage making wine here at Elyse. It's been spectacular. Absolutely.
She's part of the
spectacular.
family.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing for us to have her wines here, and I would say even more important than the wines, because the wines are amazing, but her as a person and her energy and her presence here is equally, if not more important. So we're just stoked to have you here and
Cool.
blessed
Thank
that
you.
you
And there
come on
it
the
is.
show
Cheers
with
to
us.
all, guys. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
We'll let you know what the show's going to be as soon as I come up with it.